Hi, my name's Tony, and what we're doing today is an online example of using the word one-to-one in an online context. With me is my friend. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name's Pat. Glad to be here. Glad to be in the right outfit as well, Tony.
Yeah, we've inadvertently worn the same uniform, but Pat's a friend. He's agreed to help me out. And what we're going to do is step through using the word one-to-one online. And so it's a little bit artificial in that I'll be explaining what I'm doing as we go along, but hopefully once we kind of get into it, you'll see how straightforward and easy it is. So in the current kind of lockdown situation, some people still love to use the physical word one-to-one books. I know of someone who ordered some and then drove around and dropped it off to their friend's house. But given the situation we're in, it's worth noting that all the material is available for free download online. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to head across to the word one-to-one.com.au. If you find yourself on the UK website without the .au, that's fine. They've got the material there as well. The layout will just look a little different. So this is the home page for Australia. And if you come over here to the heading order and click on that, it takes you to this screen, and as you scroll down you can see there's various booksellers in Australia that use where you can buy the books. But if you keep going down, you'll see there's the heading download, and then what we have here is the physical booklets available for download as a PDF. So just click and download that. My recommendation is that certainly the person hosting the meeting downloads their copy, but also your friend, your contact person you're meeting with, they can have a copy as well. So I'll be sharing my screen so that we're literally on the same page all the time. But if, in this instance, Pat, if he's got his own copy, it means after we've finished, if he wants to look back over the material at his own leisure, then he can. He's able to do that. So, and like I said, it's all for free. It's pretty easy. So let's go to the books. And this is really the first sort of proper page of what we refer to as an episode, rather than a study or what have we call an episode. We feel it's a bit like two people looking at a TV show together, and so you're moving through an episode at a time. And often the people we're meeting with don't know much or anything of the Bible, and so they don't know what's coming next. So that's why we do that. So there's the beginning of the episode, and so we're just going to kind of roll in and just show you how it works. So what we're looking at in the very first time we meet is the beginning of John's Gospel. It's the first 18 sentences of that, and really it's an overview, a summary of, in many ways, the whole Bible, but particularly the Gospel of John. And the big idea is that God comes to earth. And because it's an overview or a summary, there's lots that's in there and a lot that needs unpacking as we go through. But then if we continue in the later episodes. Now, Pat, I'm not sure what you're expecting when you agreed to meet with me, but if you know something of the Christmas story, maybe you thought, oh, I know what's going on there. There's angels, Bethlehem, Mary and Joseph, a baby Jesus, wise men. But you'll be surprised, if that's what you're expecting, that there's none of those things here as we dive into John.
Okay.
We're going to turn the page, and this is the first kind of diving in to what the Bible has to say, and the format is pretty much the same the whole way through the word one-to-one. So you'll see there on the left-hand side of the page where it says start here, there's 5 sentences from the Bible. As you move across the page, there are those blue boxes with the white text, which are the questions coming and arising out of the Bible. And then on the far right-hand side are the answers. So in this, Pat, your job really is just to read through the left-hand side to yourself. Lots of Christians are used to reading the Bible out loud in church or wherever it is. We're not going to do that when we meet, but rather you read quietly to yourself. I'll read it quietly to myself as well. And then my job is really to kind of highlight, a bit like a tour guide, to point out certain features as we go. And so I'll kind of step us through the questions and the answers, but if there's anything you want to raise or say ask as we go, there's plenty of opportunity to do that. So let's read that left-hand side now, and then when we're done, I'll pick up the right side.
Sure.
Yep. It is quite an amazing beginning to a book. Look how often the phrase, the word, is used. Just there in the first in the first verse. John says twice that the word was there in the beginning, and that draws out on the natural question: then, who or what is the word? In that first sentence, we see that the word was with God and was God. In the second sentence, we see that the word is a person. And we see in that third sentence, the word who is God and a person made everything. Now, these are big claims. You'll see the kind of note, a little post-it note there at the bottom of the page. The word existed before time, before creation, before the beginning. In short, he is eternal. These are big, massive claims about the word, but John's claims go even further. And so in that fourth sentence, we're looking at what difference the word makes for life. And we see he's the source of life, the answer for life, and indeed eternal life. And this sort of makes sense if, as John has claimed, the word is our creator. What we're engaging, what we're finding out here is a little bit like the instruction manual that you find in your car glove compartment, the maker's instruction, revealing how how everything is meant to work in its right way. And that last sentence, 2,000 years later, the light of the word still outshines the darkness. Even today, there's more people who claim the name of Christian than at any other time of history. So that's the first kind of page. I've stepped us through it. Pat, any kind of questions or comments that you might have before we turn the page and keep going?
So verse 2 there, he was with God in the beginning. Who is he?
Who's he? Great. The he there, we're going to see as we turn the page, it'll be explained a little bit more, but it is the word, and then we're kind of unpacking who the word is. So let's turn the page and we'll see. Yep. So again, left-hand side is straight from the Bible, so I'm going to read that and then we'll look at the right-hand side.
Sure.
All right, so our focus is shifting slightly here. We're now focusing on someone called John. This is a different John to the one who wrote the book that we're reading. This is somebody that's referred to as John the Baptist. So let's see what he had come to do. He was sent by God to point to the coming of the light. So in this chapter, what we'll see is he was the sensation of his day. He's the preacher in the wilderness. John the Baptist would have been all over, your TV news or trending on Twitter or whatever it might have been. And the government sends out its religious leaders are sent out to check him out. Who is this guy? What's he on about? But John himself, he reveals that he's not the light. So the author, John, tells us that, and in just a page or two, John the Baptist himself will confirm that he's not the light. He's got a different job. He's the one pointing to the word. And so through John the Baptist, God goes out of his way to make sure that the coming of the word is publicly known. And as you asked before, who's the word? We still yet haven't been shown or told yet who is the word. So let's kind of turn the page and we'll see a bit more information. So let's again read the left-hand side and then we'll look at the right together.
Yep.
So who rejected the word? We see in verse 10, the world. In verse 11, sentence 11, it's the Jews, so his own folk, his people. And really that's sort of encompassing everyone. That kind of big picture, all people, there's a rejection of the word. But it's not the only response. There are some who believe. So they're the two big responses. Look at the unique and awesome gift that is for all who accept him, who accept the word. In verse 12, we're told that he gave the right to become children of God. Those who believe are adopted into his family. So imagine being adopted into the royal family. I said that to someone the other week, and I said I can't think of anything worse. Maybe Harry and Meghan are reflecting something of that as they kind of break away from the royal family. But you can still see that being adopted or drawn into a royal family is big, significant, weighty. There's lots on offer there, but God here offers something even way bigger. In the phrase in verse 12, he gave the right, shows that he has full and absolute authority to do that. No one can overrule him, or no one can undermine that and take it away. And so the right is to become a child of God. This is a right to the family's inheritance, to the wealth beyond wildest dreams. This father here is richer than any multi-trillionaire on earth. It is a big claim, a big offer. And so who gets this? It's not people born into a religious family. It's not people who somehow become religious, but it's people in verse 13 who are born of God. Any kind of questions or comments, Pat?
I mean, it's interesting. Like when I think of adopted into a family, a new family, I just think of I quite like my current family. But I assume it's not saying that I have to give up my family to be adopted into this new one.
No, it's not. It's not saying that. And as we keep going through the story, we see what that kind of looks like in practical ways. So as the story unfolds, we'll see this worked out in a number of different instances with a number of different people who are in very different circumstances. So yeah, we'll see that kind of, if we keep reading, keep going, we'll see that kind of panning out. All right, let's keep rolling. Just one sentence this time on the left. You see there the little yellow note describing and explaining what grace is. Grace is all God's undeserved kindness and love freely given. And truth is the truth, absolute truth, the answer to all our searching. What here does John tell us about the word? What more does he give to us? He tells us that God comes down to earth as a man. John, the author, wants us to know that he was a first-hand witness to this, an eyewitness. And the word is glorious, for the word is God's son. It might seem surprising that if the word is God, he doesn't arrive in a whirlwind of sort of power and might, but rather he comes full of grace and truth. And so the word is, we've seen here, is God's son, but we still haven't found out his name. So let's continue. And that is revealed. So read again.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, John the Baptist the Word? No, he points to the Word. He's sort of a herald, pointing over there. And he says, no, the Word, has surpassed me because he's before me, pointing again to that sort of eternal nature. Sentences 15 and 16, of course, he is greater than John the Baptist. The Word is the Creator God himself. God has already given grace in the Old Testament, shown us something of that. And now we see the grace, his grace in its fullness, as named here, Jesus. God's good law with all its rules and regulations is to be fulfilled in Jesus, in grace and truth. So who is the Word? He's God's Son, Jesus Christ. And he's not about rules, rather he brings and comes with grace and truth. All right, let's keep rolling on the very last kind of sentence there. So what have we learned about Jesus, the Word? This is a summary of the whole passage that we've looked at. He was there from the start, in the beginning. He was with God. He is God. He made everything. He gives life now and forever. He gives us understanding for life. John calls this light. He was rejected by the world and his own people. To those who receive him, he gives the right to be part of his family. Came to earth as a man. John, who wrote the book, is an eyewitness to Jesus. Jesus comes full of grace rather than earthly power, and he brings all truth. So how does this picture fit with how you imagine Jesus? He's more than, some people have a Sunday school picture of Jesus, meek and mild. Some people think, oh, he's a sort of a wandering wise man or a political radical. John says that Jesus is the Word, the all-powerful creator God, full of grace and truth.
Yeah, I think this is, like, it's right. This does very much challenge the view of Jesus that I originally had. And I know many of people who have views of Jesus just as a good guy. So it's interesting to see the summary laid out there to understand the powerfulness of he was there in the beginning. And yeah, that grace and truth part as well.
Yep. So there's a contrast. I mean, one of the reasons really for picking John as the one to look at is it is surprising. It's not what we expect. It doesn't begin with the baby Jesus. It doesn't begin in that way. And so the picture it's painting of Jesus is quite maybe confronting or different to what people's expectation is. And so the question that I always ask at the end of doing one of these is, did you like it and would you do it again? So I'm not going to ask Pat to answer those now. We'll take that offline. But I hope that anyone doing this really does, even if it is a little bit unfamiliar, people who find it interesting, intriguing, and they are keen to find out what happens next. I mentioned as we went through, the things that are raised here will be kind of drawn out in the life of Jesus and the teaching of Jesus that you get into in the rest of the book. So we'll finish it there. Thanks. I'll finish the recording there at least. Thanks very much, Pat.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time. So I just want to say, just before we go, there's one more page. That's all the verses, the sentences there that we looked at together. So that's a summary. I'd normally say, look, you feel free to read back over that at your own leisure, and might like to look back over there. So in terms of our online, people looking at this training, I'd say, look, it is doable online. Pick what works for you. The material's all available for free download, so it's as easy as can be. It is a little bit different to meeting up face-to-face and having a coffee and having a chat in a coffee shop or wherever you might do it. But I think as people are adapting to the new normal, people getting familiar with Zoom, this is a great way to stay connected with people, to share something with them that's important to you. And so why not make the most of this opportunity to be a Bible sharer from the Gospel of John. Thanks again, Pat.
Thank you. Thanks.